Hey fam, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be creating this purple look that you see with the new Natasha Denona TrioChrome Palette. So if you guys are interested in finding out how I created this look, go ahead and stay tuned. We're going to get into it right now. So let's start by talking a little bit about this palette. I'm sure you guys may have already heard about this because it has been all over YouTube, but I wanted to give my take on things. First of all, this packaging is really beautiful. You can see that it is a multi-chrome in and of itself. It shifts from green to purple to blue. Really, really pretty. Inside, you do have a really beautiful color story with greens, purples, pinks, some more neutral shades as well. There are 12 mattes in this palette and 3 chromium shimmers. These, I believe, are supposed to be multi-chromes, but these are really, really beautiful shades. I am also going to include some singles that you guys can consider if you do not want to spend the $129 price tag for this, but you can also try the code NDXBOXY. Those of us that subscribe to BoxyCharm did receive a coupon code for Natasha Denona, so hopefully it will still work. I used that code to get this palette, so I did get this with 25% off. However, I did not necessarily mean to purchase this palette, which you guys are gonna be like, what are you talking about? First, let's kind of look at these flips. We've got a green to gold. There's a little bit of like coppery red in here as well. So these are definitely multi-chromes. We've got this purple that shifts pink. This is the one that I'd say has the least dimension. It's also got some blue, some like periwinkle to purple to pink. And then we've got this pink to green duochrome or multi-chrome. It's got like, I guess like a pink, green, gold. Quite beautiful. And these are the shades Swatch. For reference, I've also swatched the Natasha Denona LiQWYD multi-chrome shadows. We've got Infra Nude, Ultraviolet, Scarab, Dragonfly, and Dogbane. So you can see the liquid shadows are much more metallic and shiny than the ones in the palette, and there's them blended a little bit more. I was also personally very curious how these shadows might work together. For instance, laying down the liquid multi-chrome first and tapping over the powder multi-chrome. So using Scarab on my finger, you can see it flips green to blue to gold. Here is Scarab, the liquid form. If I tap this on top, so if you want it to be a little bit more impactful, you can also try layering them. So a little bit more about this palette. It does retail for $129, as I mentioned. Most of us were hoping this would have been one of the $65 palettes that Natasha Denona creates, but she did elect to go with the larger size palette. Truth be told, I did not mean to purchase this palette. When it was first sneak peeked, obviously I fell madly in love with it. I love all the greens and purples, y'all know. Unless you're new, I love green and purples so much. I wear it all the time. And I really did love this palette, but I was curious if the multi-chromes were gonna be really worthwhile picking up with all the indie singles that I have, which I will show you some comparisons as well with those. And I just wasn't sure that this was something that was really gonna be that unique to my collection. However, when I heard about the 25% off, I decided to go onto Natasha Denona's webpage to check it out and see what I could expect to pay with shipping or tax or anything like that. I wanted to kind of get an idea. So I went through, added it to cart, put in my coupon code, everything like that. And my PayPal was connected. And so I went through, went to see what my final screen would look like to see if I wanted to go through with this purchase. I was still really thinking about it. I wanted to check out some more reviews, and somehow my PayPal just went straight through. There was never a screen where I had to push like submit order or place order or anything. It just sucked it right through and said, thanks for your order. It's on its way. I was like, oh no. I was a little stressed. I went and looked at her return policy, and it wasn't nearly as flexible as like a Sephora or Ulta. Basically, if you even open the palette, it's not returnable. So like, even if you just wanted to check to see if your shades got broken or you wanted to see what it looked like in person to see if you thought it was worth it, you can't return it then. So I was like, oh, I hope I love this palette, because if not, I'm gonna be really annoyed with myself for accidentally purchasing this. However, I actually am much happier in retrospect now that I have played with it a little. I will have a tutorial in this video how I created this look, but I can say after creating this look, I'm much happier with my purchase. I already knew I would love the greens. The greens attracted me right away, and it's what I would have chosen to play with today if I was just by myself. But because I've seen so many creators reach for these greens, I wanted to offer something a little bit different and try playing with the purples, which I haven't really seen too many videos on. This last row was more neutral, and these shades are a little bit more approachable, so I felt that they might not be as beneficial to focus on, and I mainly just wanted to focus on the purple mattes today. I'm also going to offer you some swatches and options in different multi-chromes in case you do not want to or cannot afford to or just don't have the desire to purchase this palette. There are plenty of options that you could just purchase 3 singles and spend way less than $129 or 25% off of $129, like $100 or whatever it was. I will definitely show you some examples of some indie singles that are very similar. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my purchase. I'm happy that I'm not upset after trying it. Like, I really like the look. It was really easy to create. I felt like I had a lot of control with these shadows, and the mattes blended beautifully. Everything worked well together. I really like the way Kinetic looked on my lid, and as I think the least impressive multi-chrome in the palette, if I can create a look with it that I really, really like, that makes me really happy. I think Scarab and Color Flip are much more unique, special shades. This one is supposed to be a flip from pink to purple. I think there might be some blue in there, like I mentioned, Periwinkle. And it's a really pretty color, but it wasn't as dimensional as some of the other ones. But like I said, the fact that I could create a look that I loved with the least impressive shimmer in this palette, that makes me happy. Myself, I would have loved to have a little bit more shimmer options in here. But again, with my Natasha Denona liquid multi-chromes, I can certainly play with those with these mattes, which made me excited as well, because I already own those. You can also pull in any singles that you have, any shimmers from any palettes. You're gonna have a really beautiful matte formula to play with. So I do really like this palette, but I do think if you do not wish to purchase this, you can't afford to, you don't like it, it's not your thing, but you want to play with multi-chromes, I think indie singles are the way to go to be able to purchase a la carte what you think you might love. So let's get into some comparisons. The first shade we can talk about is Scarab. This is the beautiful multi-chrome Scarab from the Natasha Denona palette. Here I have my palette of Cliona singles, and I have one in here that looks very similar. This is the shade Patina from Cliona. And you can see just how much shinier and more impactful that shade is. They're both really beautiful, but you could easily buy the Patina single if you really like Scarab from the Natasha Denona palette. And even if you might wait 3 or 4 months for your order from Cliona, you will eventually get it, and it will have cost you a lot less than the Natasha Denona palette. And then we have my Divina palette. I think this shade here, Celesta, would be another beautiful option. And Divina ships very fast, and they are affordable. This one has slightly more gold in it than the other two, but you can see it has that really pretty red base, and it just gives kind of a similar dimension on the eyes as the other 2 shades that we swatched. I think any of these would be really beautiful options. For our next shade, which is Kinetic, the purple blue, I have it swatched right here for you. I looked through my collection for some comparable shades. We have Insane here by JD Glow. This is more of an affordable multi-chrome. That is the shade right here. Insane. We have my Terra Moon shadows. We have the shade here, Moontide, and that is this shade here, Terra Moon Moontide. Then we have my Glaminatrix and Luxie shades. We have the Luxie shade Painted Lady, and that is this shade here. It's Painted Lady by Luxie. We also have the Glaminatrix shade Twilight, which is this one right here. And that I think is probably our closest option. It's a little bit more grapey purple than this kind of more dusty cool tone purple that we have in the Natasha Denona palette, but I'd say it's pretty similar. Then we have my Kristen Lee and Touch of Glam shadows. From Kristen Lee, we have this shade here, which is Cotton Candy Sky. And that one is definitely more on the periwinkle side. It's this shade here. It's got like a blue to pink. We also have these 2 Touch of Glam shades here. Pandora's Box and Your Majesty. And we have Pandora's Box and Your Majesty. And then also from Touch of Glam, I tried this purpley gray here, which is called Forbidden Secrets. And that is this kind of like reddy purple shade here. And then from Divina, let's try these 2 shades at the bottom. We have Skyla and we have Morphine. I also want to swatch Papilio. So we have those shades. This one looks like it might be promising, which was Skyla. It's a little bit more pinky silver. This one looks kind of more green when you swatch. We've got that Papilio shade, which actually I think looks very blue again. So you have a lot of different options in the indie world at different price points as well. You definitely don't have to feel restricted to this very expensive palette. Moving into color flip, it looks very pink in the camera. It looks green on my finger. So it's a pink to green flip. There we go. So see, it flips green. This is the shade Swatched. It looks so much more subtle on my hand in person, and on camera it's coming off like hot pink. So I'd say this one's kind of maybe close to that Pat McGrath color in the Divine Rose 2 palette, maybe, that flips green to pink. I don't have that palette to swatch it, but I would say it's pretty comparable to that. But none of them are like this one. The only one I think I've seen like this is the Pat McGrath. So this one actually is pretty unique to my collection. I'm actually really happy about that. So I hope that those little indie single comparisons were helpful. Ultimately, I really enjoy this palette and I loved using it today. I'm happy that I have it, but I would say if you are not a huge fan of Natasha Denona, if you do not love her matte formula like I do, if you are just buying this palette for these 3 multi-chromes, you can definitely save a ton of money buying singles from Divina, Cleona, Glaminatrix, Terra Moon, Touch of Glam, Looksy, Give Me Glow, among a myriad of others. So definitely give it a lot of thought. If this color story super speaks to you, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're just having your eye on those multi-chromes, you want to try some multi-chromes, you can definitely get some great multi-chromes from indie brands and spend a lot less money than you would getting this entire palette for those 3 shades. Now let's jump into the demo. So I thought we would try a look today using the brand new Natasha Denona TrioChrome Palette. This palette has a number of mattes, 12 in fact, and then 3 multi-chrome shimmers. Let's go ahead and look at some swatches. So I'm gonna swatch the first row first, all of the greens. First we have Scrape, Androdite, Scarab, Ion, and Vert. Next, we'll swatch the purple row. We have Naga, Malganese, Kinetic, Redox, and Tungsten. And then last, we'll swatch this third neutral row. So we have Vertex, Plutonium, Color Flip, Garmin, and Diatonic. So to be honest, immediately my eyes are drawn to the green row. That is the one I want to play with the most. But those are the shades I think I've seen most people play with. So I think I'm going to stick to the second row, the purple, and we'll create a look using these shades. So starting out, I'm going to use this brush. It's just more of like a dense shader brush. This is the Luxie 209 large shader. And I'm going to start by dipping into the shade Naga, this light pink. And I'm just going to start placing this sort of in my crease to begin the eye shape. And my eyes are primed using the Elizabeth Mott Thank Me Later Eye Primer. That is a really pretty color. Even though it's a pastel, it's showing up pretty nicely on my lid. Next, using this smaller blending brush. This is from the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe collection. This is the JH40. I'm gonna dip into Redox, this slightly more cool lavender shade. And I'm just going to place this a little bit lower in my crease, just to add a little bit of dimension. Next, tapping into Tungsten, this shade right here. I'm going to focus this more on the outer edge of my crease and start to kind of shape the outer corner. This one is a little bit more powdery, and had a little bit more kick up in the pan than the other shades I tapped into. And I'm not going to carry this all the way across. I'm mainly focusing this in the actual crease, just about halfway. And then I'm going to reach into the deepest color, manganese, this dark plum. And I'm going to focus that totally in the outer corner. And I'm barely touching this shade because I don't want this to get too deep. I just want that added dimension. Lastly, with this flat shader brush from Cliona, I'm going to go ahead and dip into Kinetic. This one you can use wet or dry. And this is a purple to pink multi-chrome. And I'm just going to place this on the lid. Then I'm going to go back in with our original brush that had that light purple. And I just want to kind of carve this down a bit. Went a little teeny bit higher than I meant it to go. That's a really beautiful look and was super simple to create. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side and then we'll be right back. Okay, so now I have the look repeated on both sides. As you can see, I do have a bit of fallout. I think on this side, there's just a little bit here and there under my eyes. So I would definitely recommend doing your eyes first, especially with the shimmer shades. Then to go ahead and finish up this look, I'm gonna go in with my Natasha Denona Chromium Liquid Eyeshadow in the shade Ultraviolet. And I'm gonna use this little liner brush and just line my eyes with this. So now that we've added the Ultraviolet shade as a liner, you can see that the look, I think kind of like, it just looks more special, looks kicked up a notch. I think that's a really cool use for these liquid shadows as well, to use them as liners with other looks or with this palette. I think it just adds a really cool touch. Now for the lower lash line, I'm gonna use this brush from Luna Magic. It's just like a little kind of like, what would you call that? A little buffer brush. Short bristles, more narrow at the top. And I'm gonna reach into Naga. This is the shade that we started with. And I'm gonna just go ahead and place this under my lower lash line. And then using this little flat brush from LiQWYD, this is the LiQWYD Flat Definer 221 brush. I'm gonna reach into Tungsten. I'm just gonna drag this a little bit closer to my lower lash line. And of course, if you wanted to intensify the look, you could go with the deepest shade, but I wanna keep it a little bit more on the light and airy side if I can. Then I'm gonna grab this little blender brush and just sweep this to blend. I'm gonna throw on some lower lash mascara and we'll be back for the final look. This is our final look. I think everything came together really well. I actually really like this quite a bit, more than I expected to. Pretty happy. What do you guys think? So I have to say, for my final thoughts on this, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this palette. I am super duper happy that I enjoyed the look I created today. This was so unexpected. I know I'll love the green shades. Hands down, the green shades are my absolute favorite in this palette. They just speak to me so much, all the little grungy, swampy vibes. But now that I know that I like the entire second layer of purples as well, I used all 5 on my eyes today and I really love how they turned out. And the bottom row, I think those are more neutral colors. Those I know I can get a lot of great use out of. And I think the multi-chrome in the center there, color flip, will also be really, really beautiful on the eyes. So overall, even though I didn't mean to purchase this palette, I'm really happy that I did ultimately, because I really enjoy it more than I thought I would. I'm pleasantly surprised. That is a huge relief because this was a pricey mofo, let me just tell you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was really helpful. I hope it was able to inspire you guys to create some looks, maybe with some purples in your collection if you don't have the TrioChrome palette. I hope if you do have the TrioChrome palette that this was able to give you some ideas. Again, the greens, so beautiful. I can't wait to play with those. And those neutral shades I think will be absolutely beautiful as well. You can create more everyday looks with those shades, I think, and they'll be absolutely beautiful. So overall, I'm really happy with this palette. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thank you all so much for being here with me today. I love you all so much. And until the next video, bye.